This video is about self-improvement, and before we get started, I have to blur this out. All advice is advice because there's no such thing as universally applicable advice, with the exception of healthy body, healthy mind. In fact, the reason that statement came to being in the ancient antiquity was because the only thing you can ask or wish from a genie that would not have any unforeseen consequences, to have optimum health, and is to have optimum health. That's the only universal piece of advice. And even then, nutrition advice on the internet is awful, right? Whether it be the fitness, mental health, or any practice. And it's usually given by people who don't implement it. So avoid it, seek actual nutritionists, seek actual books written by nutritionists, seek actual books written by therapists, written by psychologists with actual clinical experience. Avoid any of the online content. And if I say anything in this video that even resembles advice, just disregard it. And I acknowledge what I'm doing is having someone to vent to. I need to vent about this for my own mental health. A year and some weeks ago, I decided to attempt to lose as much weight as possible. I watched a video from one of the better gurus on the internet, Hamza, in regards to obesity, weight loss, and the following, where he mentioned hormones that made me look up a book written by a kidney doctor who specialized in some of those hormones. The book was called Obesity Code by Jason Fung. If you're going to read it, I found it useful, but again, might not be applicable to you. And just going off how he described his theory of why obesity is so prevalent, that being that there's a lot of food that is basically designed to prevent satiation but encourage hunger, and there's very few good foods that are good at combating bad foods. I kind of based a lot of my diet around that book, and the book was well written. It's kind of like a history book of the history of diets and how people treated obesity, why every decade had its own fad or its own prescription to the nutrition and obesity problem in America and in the Western world by and large. So for the last 13 months, I've been following it, and I lost a little over 100 pounds, and I've gained around 7 pounds of muscle. Now, if you're not going through puberty, the max you can get without drugs, with gifted genetics, this is the genetic high end, is around 12 pounds per year, 10 pounds per year for some. So I may have the best muscle building genetics, but that's could be because I'm obese. So who knows? And keep in mind, it's hard to gain muscle in a calorie deficit. At least going on scans I've gotten of my body. But I've been doing great on the weight loss. I've been doing great on the fitness aspect of it. But every time I hit a new milestone, not just in fitness, but also in my job recently gave me a promotion and a raise and told me, hey, we're going to train you to get a IT certification so you can fix computers. It's from one of the largest trade associations in the country. I've been practicing for that trade test every day at work. I'll listen to videos of people going over every section of this test, explaining the answers and why the answers would be that, explaining what you would do in the workforce, and giving applicable examples of when that information would come up. Right, I'm watching videos when I get home of people doing the test or copies or clones of the test, and selecting all the right answers, writing those answers down. Right, finding Quizlets, reading and memorizing them, taking practice tests online, and just really digesting and consuming a lot of that content. And every time I hit a new milestone or I'm able to remember something from one of these videos, the same feeling of, entitlement comes, but also pride. And, it wasn't until like 8 months ago, I lost my virginity, and December 15th that I doubled it, and my spirit, it really hasn't changed all that much over the last 2 years, right? The change to my spirit has been very minimal, but the change to my body has been very significant. And the two girls I did it with were very different psychologically speaking. One was notably way more introverted. Both were somewhat neurotic, but one was notably way more neurotic. And I have a third girl who's polyamorous, who's somewhat sexually interested in me, especially since she broke up. So I have, I'm no Giga Chad, right? I'm no Henry Cavill. I'm no Kirk Douglas. But I went from being a sub 5 incel, in the words of Wheat Waffle, to a normie, right? Someone who actually has opportunities behost upon them. And every time I hit a new milestone, I'm just kind of reminded that nothing in my spirit, nothing in my core inner identity really made a difference. None of those stupid videos about game or learning how to text women, none of the advice of my friends saying, hey, be flirtatious, be comical, be like text this way, have conversations this way. Oh, when you're texting someone, you have to be interesting and do X, Y, and Z. And it's like all those things, all that advice didn't get me anywhere. And like I tried it with the new phone, like it had no predictive availability. It had no impact whatsoever on my ability to find an attractive partner, find a partner, anything. It had nothing. Never helped me. But just changing my appearance made such a huge difference that to this day I'm like I can't help but be a little angry. It's like, wow, they're really this shallow. And I was watching a video on this Discord server with people who are politically very extreme, and very few people would agree with anything they say, and they watch a lot of manosphere content. They used to do more political content, but they're basically switching pure manosphere, and they're watching this Kevin Samuel video of this guy critiquing this fat 20-year-old college student, like, oh, the fact that you have it, and the college student was being dumb. He said, oh, they're not giving me signals saying that they would be okay with me approaching them and asking them out on a date, or talking to them, getting to know them, then asking them for a date, which I don't think there's a difference between the two. And I'm watching the video, and he kept saying choosing signals, and in my mind, I translated it as him saying they're not showing that they would appreciate me approaching them, right? I'll try to clip the video in this video so you guys can hear it or see it.
I said better. That means if you're not a better option, if you want better outcomes, you got to do the work. See, you want more than you're willing to work for. You don't even want to approach a woman. You think a woman should approach you. That's why you get nothing. You're sitting back entitled. I think I'm a pretty decent pick. Good. How's that working for you? Dick dry as hell. Never had a girlfriend, never had a date, and about just run down how women send you bad energy. Ain't no bad energy. Ain't no bad energy. It's you.
And to be honest, I don't think I don't know any woman my age, or definitely none younger, that even have the ability to appreciate the amount of investment and self-improvement I put in myself, or like they'll appreciate like my appearance, but they would never be able to appreciate the work I put in the gym, right? They may appreciate my money, but they would never appreciate the fact that I had to go through a course to get a license or a certification that gave me job opportunities to make that money, or I had to save a bunch of money. I had to go to a trade school to get there. They may appreciate I have a nice, reliable car, right? But they would never appreciate the backstory I had to go through with two bad cars to get that really good car. They would never appreciate, the blood I had to donate for money, the side hustles I had to do for it. And every time I make a new stride, I make a new improvement in my life that could be even like divided in SMV, or sexual marketplace value terms, I feel bitterment, right? And every time I just think about this story about my friend, one of my best friends, he became an evangelical a few years ago, and he started volunteering with kids with his young devotional church group, because he had to go in this devotional group to show you were dedicated to Christ. You have to volunteer at the church somehow, whether it be helping addicts, whether it be helping, some of the older people went to the church, or just doing tasks for the organization, organizing money, something. They had a lot. They're a pretty big group. They have churches all around the country. They're like one of the biggest non-denominational kind of like churches in the country. He ended up volunteering with kids, and the fact there weren't, like, he picked kids for a lot of reasons, but the two big ones was he wanted to learn how to be a better father for his kids, and he wanted to be a better father figure for his niece that was on the way. And I thought, well, is there a lot of, because I instantly thought, okay, maybe that's an environment I can go to, right? Because I told him at the time I wanted to date girls, I wanted to have a girlfriend, I wanted to have someone I could be romantically intimate with. And I just go asking him like, "Hey, is there a lot of young women there?" And he's like, "No." And I went to his devotional group a few times, like when they were like trying to reach out and they convert people. And they had me over. That I was talking to the guy's name was Mark. He was the son of the guy who house we went to. Who he had his own house, but he was like the son, eldest son of that guy, of the guy who owned the house. The guy who the devotional group took place in this guy's house. His eldest son would talk to me, and I just remember asking him about it, and he was like, "It's mostly older people." And at the time, I just chalked it up to, okay, the reason there's mostly randos from the church, mainly older people, and like a few guys who recently joined volunteering there is because you know have jobs, and so do a lot of the fathers, and they have to leave it with the old people of the church who they trust. But the fact now that I'm looking back at it, it's like I don't. I really don't know. Like I've never seen a YouTube channel where, except Abigail Shapiro, Ben Shapiro's sister. I've only seen her channel. She's the only woman on the internet that gives advice, gives lectures, gives courses, teaching women how to be better wives, better mothers. And that's such a trippy thing for me. It's like you have all these men on the internet. Like most of the manosphere is not about man. That's my main problem with it. That's why that's why I think it was so much better 5, 10 years ago. Because a lot of the stuff about in the manosphere, you know, at that time point was about men internally looking in and self-actualizing. It wasn't that much, dumb gossip content on like podcasts. It was actual like content. It was actual like heavy topics being brought up. And now that I'm here, it's just I realize now that at this age, I feel dumb for not realizing, but they don't really think like that. Like they can't like it doesn't matter what I do, they'll never appreciate me more than I could appreciate myself. My ability to feel pride over my accomplishments will always be greater than any woman I've ever encountered would be able to appreciate the work I needed to get to that point. They may be able to appreciate the fruits of my labor, but never the hands that got it there. And it's a very like souring feeling. It makes it so like I'm gonna be honest, like I enjoyed looking at like I'm a guy, so I fall for the trick. Those tricks where people will post an attractive girl and you're more likely to look at their posts and read it on 4chan or any other social media, or like Sandman does it with his clickbait thumbnails. Most of his thumbnails are girls. That doesn't work on me anymore. Like if I was to go a few months ago on my international photo folder from like 4chan, it was mostly photos of girls I thought were pretty. And like I used to have a whole folder of like different types of faces and phenotypes and things I would like, because I had like ambitions, and I still have ambitions. I'm actually somewhat done this D&D campaign I'm writing down. But man, I can't believe that how much I feel like I wasted a lot of time pursuing these people. I just feel like entitled and like kind of embittered to it. And even though there's some women in theory who are like interested in me, they really have no way. I don't even know how I can communicate or what they could even do to show they appreciate me. I really don't. And I used to see memes of people like complaining about this. Like they'll show a guy, it's like bare minimum for a guy to get a girlfriend. Has to be jacked. Can't have any disabilities, visible or whatever. Has to be like basically showing that men have to put in like a part-time job to make themselves presentable for women. Meanwhile, women, they just don't have to be fat, which is optional at this point. And I just been dealing with that. And like I even tried to express these emotions at base physics server, and it was just that. It was just even more frustrating. It was just like, ugh, how do people even tolerate this? Like that was my feeling. Like I really have lost the ability to appreciate. The only thing fueling self is like self improvement is just my pride, right? That's really it. My pride and the fear of losing progress. Like I have dreams where I wake up and I'm like the hair I've been growing out for a while, it just stops growing or it just falls out, or I'm like just as fat as I was a year ago. And I don't really have like I used to have nightmares about being alone, but those have kind of just changed. They're gone now, and I think I'm becoming immune to women. Like a lot of the warmth I used to get from them. Like now I just think they can look pretty or sometimes cool if it's like a fantasy design. The same way people think um, cartoon and video game characters are. Like it's just my appreciation of them has evolved to the point it's purely like attractive base. Like oh, they kind of look neat. I've really lost it. I really have lost it. My ability to appreciate them, sadly. And the reason I'm making this rant is because if anyone's been going through this lately, um, I want to know if you guys feel the same emotion I'm feeling. Because I need to talk to more people with this emotion. It's something I never thought I would be feeling. It's kind of opening my eyes to what it means to have emotions and be human. But Avita Zane.